Hello, hello. Hello out there. How we doing? Hey, it went up. I didn't have to fiddle around with anything. Yeah. How we doing? Hope we're all doing well. Today, we've pretty much finished animating everything. So now I'm just doing some cleanup. I did off stream animate that. The guys that are just tumbling. You're not now? Aw. It's early you are early. God damn. Getting the worm. The ringworms. Let's skip this one. I was trying to take a nap and acid reflux hit you hard. Damn. I can talk from experience that acid reflux is a son of a bitch. And I feel your pain. Well, I should say I once did. Kinda out of the system right now. Got a glass of chalky milk, that's good. Coffee may awaken the mind, but a good chalky milk awakens the soul. Guys, thank you for the hydrate. Nom, 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 nom. Welcome in, welcome in. We're doing some animation cleanup. How was you? I think I may fix this one up a bit because it's it feels a bit awkward. Might change the camera angle. We'll see. We're working on it. As yeah. Yeah. Global, we want local. How long have I been working on this animation? I want to say for a few weeks now. It's like my second 3D animation. First one being, of course, this guy. Could have bunched up a bit. I wanted a bit more relaxed. That's a bit more relaxed. Oh, I should have that on. That's fine. Yes, I could. Oh, I kind of want to listen to the Bone Labs and Boneworks OST. No, keep it up. Thank you. We're nearing the end of it. I think right now what I want to do is just touch up a bunch of things. Maybe add some more stuff like models and that. Maybe do like a couple of wrecked versions of like the vending machine. And then we'll see where we go from there.
What is a skeleton's favorite snack? Go on, guess. Snack. Go on, gas. Snack. Go. Go on, gas. Go on, gas. No, go on, gas. Come on, gas. Why are you laughing? I haven't told the punchline yet. What is a skeleton's favorite snack? Snack. Go on, gas. Snack. Go on, gas. Go on, gas. No, go on, gas. Go on, gas. No, go on, gas. No, go on, gas. Go on, gas. No, go on, gas. On gas. No, go on. Go on, gas. No, go on, gas.
my goodness. Turn that down a bit on my end and I'll bring it up a bit. Good.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? I haven't told the punchline yet. What is a skeleton?
Yeah, welcome in. Doing all right. Currently just cleaning up some animation. Keep getting recommended Japanese art tutorials because of the auto translate on YouTube. You're like, I have no idea what they're saying. Glad you're here. Thank you, Japanese Bob Ross, for your assistance. I shall try and figure out what you said later. Procopia continues to eat you. But what you gotta do is you gotta get the Switch cartridge and then you eat it.
Gas!
And then everything should be right. They thought of that. It tastes bad by design. God damn it, John Nintendo. Need to fix.
Gas!
Nintendo Switch specifically made that cartridges have something on them that tastes awful so kids would spit it out. Yeah, I do remember seeing that, and then everyone on the internet during the time when the first Switch came out was like, we're gonna do a Switch cartridge taste test, because of course they did. Makes you deeply worried that kids got addicted to the taste. When I was but a wee child, I ate all of my brother's Nintendo Switch cartridges because they tasted funny. Ah. And become addicted to some can become addicted to fermented fish. No longer question what humans find tasty. Would no longer, okay.
Why are you laughing? I haven't told the punchline yet.
You're laughing. We have a problem and you're laughing. We having a problem and you're laughing. Like the taste of iron, and it wasn't until you're like 25 you learn others don't. I don't mean this as like an innuendo or anything, but you should try blood sausage. Or black pudding. That's one. No joke, you want to? You'd probably find it in a butcher's somewhere.
Come on! Gas! Why are you laughing? I haven't told the punchline yet. What is a skeleton's favorite snack? Gas! Gas! Why?
music's very loud compared to me. Oh, hang on. No joke as well. You think it's due to Welsh or water supply? Have a lot of iron. Your water supply has a lot of iron. Nature plants that eat Welsh leeks. Super high in iron and vitamin K. Ah. Interesting.
Gas! Gas!
Scottish man said to you he has a co-worker who is Welsh and she also very vampire-like and frail, and now he thinks all Welsh people are vampires. That explains a lot. Might have to change those Smashing Pumpkin song lyrics. The world is a vampire. The Welsh are the vampire.
Gas! Fuck!
Is it doing the same thing on this side? It should, but it isn't. Okay. That's fine. Sun is burning. It's not your fault, or the addiction to iron, or the reddish eyes, or also your friend who is also Welsh descent is also allergic to water. What? You're also allergic to silver. Doesn't help the allegations. It does not. The Welsh are vampires. True allergy, it's called aquagenic urticaria. Water on the skin make you violently rash. Is it just the skin? There's a rare form of physical in which hives develop on the skin after contact with water, regardless its temperature, salt content, or pH. Fewer than 100 cases have been reported worldwide, with a higher prevalence among females and onset typically during or after puberty. The condition can be triggered by rain, snow, sweat, tears, or even drinking water in severe cases. Just skin for you, or in tears burn. Damn! For everyone where salt water doesn't do it for you, doesn't do the burning thing, just non-ocean water, that's crazy. 2 more Cyberpunk Achievos. That's good. 90 billion to go. And it's all sorts of fucked up. What do you mean it's working now? Okay, don't work here. Don't work on these bones. It works on that bone. Works on this bone. Nani the fuck. That doesn't make sense. Not a single sense. Okay, now we're doing thing. I told it to do thing, and now it's doing it. This is grand. Don't report it because it's a mild annoyance at best. Most of us don't even notice. Doesn't burn you. That is very interesting, I will say. Not something that I was expecting to learn today, but here we are. I should be expecting these things, to be fair. Now we just gotta do the same for here. But my thinking is why it's not doing the thing I want it to do is because the auto IK doesn't work well with the mirror position for whatever reason.
Gas! Fuck! Gas!
It's not a true allergy because true allergies get worse with exposure. It doesn't work the way it resets each time. It's more the water causes a histamine reaction, but it isn't reacting to water. Interesting. It isn't labeling the water as bad, it just thinks something bad is there and is looking for it. Okay. Nice vending machine. Thank you. It is a happy vending machine. I don't know why Zoom stops there. Anyway.
Gas! Gas! Fuck! Gas! Gas, goddamn you! Why won't you answer me?
Actually, that's right. I want you is actually better. Definitely more of what I want. Hmm. Spiritual vampires no good with water, so there are many reasons vampire bat. Many reasons. And my old friends say your real life vampire is not true. Just listen to them. Don't listen to them. Not the big open side, just in case. You had an art struggle today? What happened? Made yourself as a gym leader and send it to someone, and they were like, you should make the cane a Crobat. They just sighed, considered it, but it looked like another Pokemon character. So he changed it, and they immediately pointed out the other design was better. Oh. That's super annoying. I've had that. I think I've had a friend go through that like once. I think I may have gone through that once where it's like I make different versions of something. I'll have like a lot of time put into one specific version and I have less time put into another. And where it'd be like animation, like doing sprite animation and that, or just sprite art. And then and I'll show them and I'll go like, yeah, that one, the easy one that you made, let's go with that one. Fuck the one that you put hours in. Let's go for the other one. Send me DMs for comparison. Ooh, I do like how they've turned out. First one's cool. One is an official Pokemon design. Okay. The second one's okay. So is the second one the one that you're doing comparison? That you're working, like just basing it off of? Old lady is Agatha. Oh, okay. Oh, I see now. It says in the URL. The old lady's the one you're avoiding matching. Okay. You wanted a Crobat cane, but it looked too much like Agatha's cane. Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong taking a little inspiration. I see, yeah. But the Gengar smile and all that, yeah. You just use a cane in real life, you cry. Curse you, Agatha! It was Agatha all along. Went with a road raised cane. Oh yeah, I see. With like the rosebud hands and all that. That's cool. That's really cool. Oh.
Guess! Guess, goddamn you! Why won't you answer me? What is my favorite snack? No! No! What is it? Why must you fail me so often? Ribs! Spare ribs! Fuck! Go on, guess. Go on, guess. What is a skeleton's favorite snack? Go on, guess. No. Go on, guess. Come on! Guess!
Hmm. Thought that would be equally thematic. The idea is she's a poison type trainer. But also made it a Crobat cane. It was like, there's 2 cane users in Pokemon, can't match one too closely. Closely, there's not like variety. And the first thing he said was the cane would be cool if it was a Crobat. Pokemon already got dibs. I feel like you could probably do something. You could probably pull off something like a little, like, more intricate than just like what the Agatha has, that character. Because looks like she has like just like a wooden cane. Might make a Crobat necklace, would be cool. I'd say look up some like some cane designs. Usually stuff with like the handle and Could have an Arbok cane. You know what? That would be very good. Also, that would keep in the theme. That would work. That would absolutely work. I was gonna do the other hand. God damn it! Auto case on. Makes this a lot easier. Move the wrist a bit. So how does that look? I need to the right. What are common shapes and animals on a cane handle? A lot of crows and eagles and snakes. You poor soul. That's fine. Call a brain fart. It's fine. Just found brass knuckle canes. Seems inconvenient in many ways. Yeah. May help a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
Yes! Why are you laughing? I haven't told the punchline yet! What is a skeleton's favorite snack? Gas! Gas! Fuck! Gas! Gas, goddamn you!
The unironic amount of people who say should get use a cane with a sword. Concerning amount, like, ask you regularly if your cane has a sword in it. Like, I like going places. Most places don't allow you guys to use swords or have swords. Shockingly. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you do that, it may be on a list of some sorts. If you go through an airport, you may be put on a list. That does remind me. A while back, my dad had started getting some back troubles, and he needed a cane. And so, what he ended up doing is he went to a bunch of places. He went to like novelty shops. He went to like op shops and all that. Got some canes from some family members and that. And one of the ones that he got had like a brass fork head as like the handle. And had it for years. Years and years and years. At one point, I think either a nephew or a young family member was playing with it and dropped it on the ground. And we heard a shatter. Not of like wood or like metal, but glass. We heard glass. So out of curiosity and that, my dad starts twisting the head of the hawk on the cane itself. And it had turned out that particular cane was set up with a shot glass within the cane itself. Had it for years, no clue. What do you see? Oh, that is good. I like that first one you sent. You do have a cane with a sword in it. The replica of the Assassin's Creed Friar cane. Oh, from Syndicate, okay. Nice. Jacob Fryer's weapon. Okay. I never played Syndicate. I think... What was it? I played Assassin's Creed 2. I remember getting all the feathers. And then I didn't play Assassin's Creed for a while. And then I played Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And then stopped there. And then I tried giving what was it? Assassin's Creed Valhalla a go. And then kind of dropped it after a bit because it was just felt kind of boring. It's too open world. I don't know. The amount I have to explain to folks that like a cane to be functional and nice to hold, you need it. The people is wild, like, seem to think it's a prop. Yeah, it's unfortunate there are some people that use canes as props more than they actually need it.
Joke for you. What is a skeleton's favorite snack? Go on, guess. No. Go on, guess.
Come on, guess.
Come on. Guess. Why are you laughing? I haven't told the punchline yet. What is a
Bigger issue with Odyssey and Valhalla is not just the open world, it's the most boring settings for it. About if we set it in time periods with the most spaced out buildings ever.
What is my favorite snack?
Yeah, like, what are we gonna do in our parkour assassin game? Let's have boats and buildings that are far away from each other and, like, not much else. Oh, can we climb trees again? No. Didn't have to be just to the most spaced out parts of Greece, Rome, and have been so connected, etc. Stealthing in this game becomes hang out in a bush. Well, good, you wiped out enough guys. Go to bush number 2. Yeah. That's what I felt with, especially with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, because I remember everyone, including myself, who have played that game, loves the ship battles, loves working with the ship, working on the ship, getting more resources to upgrade it, making it better. I love it. What I didn't love about that game were the stealth sections. It wasn't fun. And oh my god, especially the chase missions where you have to stealth through like sugar canes, freaking palm things with like what was it, the massive like trailers with the palm tree leaves in them, bushes and all that. Stop going to the bush where 10 people are dead. Just go away.
Why are you laughing?
We having a problem and you're laughing. Rome and Greece had giant apartment complex, like buildings. Why didn't any of that in Odyssey? We get any of that in Odyssey, it's crazy. I feel like they kind of fumbled hard on Assassin's Creed after 4. Or maybe not after 4. Because I know Assassin's Creed Unity came out and it was buggy as hell. Assets weren't loading in. There were people with just eyeballs and teeth for faces. No skin or flesh. No bones even. Only the bone teeth. Scary shit. And yeah, it's like after a while on that, people fixing the game, like apparently it was alright. And I think after, when they switched to Odyssey, it kind of fell off. From what I've heard. Take my opinion with a grain of salt, because I haven't played Odyssey, but I have played Valhalla. At least Odyssey had the cool giant Greek statues. Those were cool to climb on once. Valhalla didn't have that. Vikings were maybe not a match for a game about climbing. Back. Yeah. Vikings aren't exactly the best thing, not the first thing you think of when you think of assassins. Maybe pillagers or people that raid monasteries, assassinating people. Killing, yes. Assassinating, no. Stealthing, no. Parkouring, maybe, but no. I was subtle. I threw an axe in his head. Very efficient. Parkour in the massive heavy armor set. Now I see why they spent so much time, so many games on Ezio. Because Ezio was cool as shit. The room was great, that's why. Maybe less of a sweeping motion and more of like a pointing sort of motion. And auto chaos I can do. Game set in Germantown seems nice too. One of those close together houses. Might be cool. I think they got away from understanding what makes Assassin's Creed fun. The climbing, the stealth. Don't want to feel like a barbarian. You want to feel like an assassin. Yeah, exactly. Also cool for being a combat platforming game that merged those two well. Yeah. I feel like when they went to Assassin's Creed Origins, like when I heard about it, I was like, oh yeah, that'd be interesting, like the origins of like the assassins and all that. Learning about it, like the story and everything, it being set in like what was it, Egypt? I was like, oh, that'd be interesting. And then I was completely disinterested when I learned that that like one of the main mechanics was you would teleport from enemy to enemy. And I just kind of went, yeah, no, I'm not interested in that. Like, that feels like... That doesn't sound like the Assassin's Creed. That feels like they took out, like, a big chunk of, like, what that game was good for. Like, when they made it a barbarian game, it's like, so is every other fantasy game on the market, I could just play Skyrim again. Yeah, honestly. Arkham games ruin so much combat in games forever. It's the best combat ever, not if everyone does. Yeah, I think I love the Arkham games. I played through pretty much all of them. I think except for the 2D one, which I have on Steam, but I still haven't played. Like I played through Asylum, I've played through City, I've played through Origins, I've played through Dark Knight. I haven't played the VR games because why lock shit to VR? I don't know. I even gave like Gotham Knights a go, which was fine on its own. I don't think it really needs to be in general. I haven't played the Suicide Squad game, which was the Arkham developers, Rocksteady, that worked on it. Which is weird because it doesn't. I have so many opinions about things in that game, but like, yeah, I get what you mean. It's like the combat from the Arkham games, everyone looked at it and went, wow, let's do that. And yeah, it became sort of like less, like some games became less complex because of that. Assassin's Creed may have been kind of in that same boat with like for instance, like Valhalla. Works in a superhero setting. Yeah, it works in superhero setting, but like historical fiction doesn't really work with that. It's like Gotham Knights game is like to you like Mass Effect Andromeda. It's a good game. It doesn't reach the level of incredible the OG games did. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is just a very flawed game. Yeah. I feel like it scratches the itch of... I think what they're thinking is that it scratches less of the itch of like the historical relevancy of like Vikings and what have you, and scratches the itch of like uh, the pirates versus like ninjas versus X, what have you, sort of type vibe, like what they have with For Honor. Kind of messes up everything it tries to do and seems directionless rather than passionate. Devs make missing the mark. Yeah. Like Pokemon, it's so clear that the devs want to make anything else. They're not allowed to, because Ubisoft won't let them. Like a Pokemon company won't let Pokemon. Yeah. I think that's a big reason why Game Freak has a different game that they are working on or have announced. I can't remember what of the two. Game Freak. New game. What was it called? Beast of Reincarnation. New game isn't theirs. They're publishing it. Then make it. They're not publishing it. They're like, it's like co-developed by Game Freak. The publishers are called Fictions. Let's have a look. Unreal Engine 5, so it's gonna run like crap. Developer Game Freak. Publisher Fictions Incorporated is an American video game publisher based in Los Angeles. I think they're trying to be publishers to get more rights. I could see that. That makes sense. I think developers at this point are getting wiser to publishers ripping them off. So it's probably best they do try to get the rights to their own game. Because if I ever work with like a publisher and that making a game, I'm 100% gonna fix the contract so that, you know, I own this shit, the majority of it. If you guys try to fuck me over, I'm out. Like, simple as that. Publishers controlling them so much. Is there? Yeah. Because you've got the excellent people over at New Blood. Wow, this hand looks wonky. Like, you've got the folks over at New Blood where they are helping people make first-person shooters and helping out with funding and like marketing and all that, like a publisher should. And then also like assisting out with getting developers and everything like that. And I feel like publishers get so like they get away with whatever they fucking want to the point where it's like they skimp out on a lot of stuff that they're being like paid for. Like marketing, for example. Like a lot of games that have put so much hours in, so many years, so many days, months, what have you, that when the game comes out and it's like being advertised and all that, it doesn't get very far because publisher didn't do their fucking job. They're working on it, but from what you've heard, the other team is doing most of the work. But honestly, don't blame them when they even have time. Yeah. To me. Oh, you're a gamer. Here we go. Is that Game Freak's relatively small internal team is supported by several dozen development partners for Beast of Reincarnation. I feel like what is happening here is that Game Freak is working with a bunch of other developers in a way of it being like a union. And I think they are hiding it in such a way so that publishers don't go like, oh, maybe not. Like, it's not out in the air, it's not out in the open. Like, really what this sounds like is Game Freak is unionizing and actually getting the rights for their games. And I feel like that should, like, what was it? I gotta look it up. Who designed Pokemon? Like, because I know Game Freak developed Pokemon, but was it somebody at Nintendo that initially designed it? Pokemon OG game designers. Ken Sugimori. Pokemon created by Satoshi Tajiri, video game designer and director who is the creator of Pokemon franchise. Employer Game Freak. Yeah. So Pokemon it's not a Nintendo product technically. It's published by Nintendo, but it's developed by Game Freak. And because of how things are with publisher and developer like relations, like Nintendo formed their own, like, Nintendo owns it. They have a subsidiary being Pokemon Company. but really it's a Game Freak game. Yeah, like 10 people. Hmm. Toshi Tajiri worked on Legend of Zelda. Interesting. So yeah, I feel like this, as much as like we haven't really heard too much about this, it's kind of in the dark. But I feel like the way Game Freak is going around things, it's like they are focusing on developer first. The people that are working on the game, employees first. It seems like what they're going with. As much as a part of Nintendo as like Sakurai is, yeah. So with how Pokemon's kind of going in that, I feel like it's kind of like they're pushing aside, being pushed aside from what it feels like. Is there like a Pokemon development documentary? This bullshit Watch Mojo thing. There's like a 20-minute video. Like red and blue. Hmm. Like Star Fox or Rare. Yeah. There was kind of this thing that persisted after like I want to say after a while where a lot of games, like I think a big one was, or not games but publishers like Konami, where they don't even list the developers, like not even like the studio that made the game, they just list themselves. Like there's no credits, it's just play game, game ends, made by Konami. That's it. And that persisted for a while. Until it didn't. Then people started seeing like separating publisher and developer. So whilst technically Pokemon is owned by Nintendo and is developed by Nintendo, it's also technically developed by Game Freak. Among third parties nowadays, but like back in the day. We'll do a thing. Hmm. It was owned by Nintendo. Yeah, that's what I mean. It was a studio formed by Nintendo. How should I do this? Put it in the corner here. Yeah. Then I'm gonna put the actual video. We'll put it here.
The origin of the first generation of Pokemon games is a fascinating tale that involves real-life bug catching, trademark difficulties, almost losing years of work, and defying the expectations of Nintendo, who didn't understand the concept of collecting monsters. To get the full picture, we have to go all the way back to the 70s, when a child named Satoshi Tajiri developed a fascination with catching and collecting insects in a western Tokyo suburb called Mashita, where Satoshi grew up. He enjoyed exploring the rural parts, such as rice fields, rivers and forests. On his adventures, Satoshi searched for insects, fish and other creatures. There was something about the way they moved that mesmerized him. He studied all the creatures he brought home and thought of new ideas of how to catch them. For example, most of the other kids would catch beetles using honey, but Satoshi had the idea of putting a stone under a tree, because beetles sleep during the day and they like sleeping under stones. It made finding them a breeze, and as a result, Satoshi would collect more bugs than all of his friends. Little discoveries like that excited him each and every time. His bug catching skills also earned him the nickname Dr. Bug among the neighboring kids. Aside from exploring his neighborhood, Satoshi was also fascinated with Ultraman on TV and in manga. He stated in an interview with Time magazine that if games didn't exist, he would probably be making anime. Satoshi also frequented the local arcade hall starting around 1978 and became hooked on Space Invaders, which got him more interested in video games. Back then there was barely any games media, at least not where Satoshi lived. Therefore, he took reins into his own hands and created Game Freak magazine in 1983, around the time he started going to college. The magazine was completely handwritten and stapled together by Satoshi himself. It featured secret tips and tricks on how to beat arcade games and was available in specialist bookstores for 200 yen. The most popular issue managed to sell over 10,000 copies, so at a pretty young age, Satoshi already had a real business going. One of the people that bought the magazine was none other than Ken Sugimori, who would become the primary character designer and art director for Pokemon. Ken enjoyed reading the magazine and got in touch with Satoshi to offer his services as an illustrator. From then on, the pair collaborated on Game Freak magazine until it was discontinued. They quickly became friends and bonded over their love of arcade games. One day, Ken and Satoshi talked about how arcade games are often very similar and asked themselves what they would do differently if given the opportunity to develop a video game. Some of the other people reading the fan-made magazine were programmers and had access to game development tools. Pretty soon I had some contributors and we'd all get together and talk about games. The more I learned about games, the more frustrated I became because the games weren't very good. I could tell a good game from a bad game. My conclusion was, let's make our own games. By the time Game Freak started developing games, Satoshi's neighborhood had completely changed. A place that was once rich with rivers and forests had now been replaced with housing facilities, office buildings and stores. Satoshi thought about all the kids who were now unable to explore nature and collect its mysterious creatures. It was this line of thinking that sparked the initial idea for Pokemon. In the face of more and more urbanization, the young developer wanted to provide an opportunity for kids these days to feel that sensation of going on an adventure, exploring unknown locations and discovering the local critters and creatures. This, combined with his favorite activities such as playing video games and watching Ultraman, laid the groundwork for the first Pokemon games. However, his idea didn't completely click until he saw the original Game Boy in 1989. The link cable capabilities of Nintendo's first handheld console seemed like a perfect fit for Pokemon. Satoshi visualized actual living organisms moving back and forth across the cable. Furthermore, once Satoshi saw the success of the Final Fantasy Legend, the very first RPG for the Game Boy, he was convinced that his idea for a monster collecting RPG was not only possible on the Game Boy, but that it was the only system that could bring his dream game to life. Soon after, Satoshi and Ken officially founded Game Freak as a video game studio, and development on Pokemon began in 1990. The team kicked things off by creating a concept pitch document that contained a lot of early design sketches, as well as how the game would work. Interestingly, it depicted quite a different version of the world of Pokemon, and this makes sense given that Satoshi and the other creators originally set out to make a more traditional RPG-like game. For starters, the project's original name was Capsule Monsters, inspired by both the popular Japanese capsule toys called Gashapon dispensed from vending machines and Ultraman's Capsule Kaiju. It's this
But of course that would
inspiration,
be
however, that got the team into
Capcom
trouble
instead
trying to
of
trademark the
Pokemon,
name, and they
which would be
eventually had to
a copyright
change it to
infringement.
Monsters, or Pokemon for short. A common RPG trope, checking into a hotel or inn, was detailed in the concept pitch. Of course, players can still go to a Pokemon Center in the final
No,
game and heal their
Capmon,
Pokemon,
not
but it doesn't
Capcom.
offer a
Blah.
room for the player to rest in. Another clear difference from the final games are the shopkeepers. This drawing depicts the main character trying to buy a Lapras from a shopkeeper, who can be seen keeping Pokemon in cages. While there's an opportunity in the Gen 1 games to exchange Pokemons for tokens at Celadon City, it's certainly not possible in the Pokemarts. The document also features a Charisma stat, being able to trade multiple Pokemon at once, and an emphasis on collecting items like you would Pokemon. Additionally, the included sketches show a talk option when facing a trainer, as well as the total amount of HP and TP each Pokemon has during battles. TP was probably a precursor for PP and most likely stood for
Yeah,
technical points.
PP.
The drawings also depict the ability to sell your Pokemon for gold, the currency that was used before it was switched to yen. Not only that, it's likely that an early idea was to assign a gold value to each Pokemon, as well as an intelligence stat, as evident in this sketch. Surprisingly, the concept pitch also includes a female version of the protagonist, something that was introduced for the first time in Pokemon Crystal. Speaking of the protagonist, an early idea was to let the player character participate in battles. The original player sprite can be seen holding a whip and has a tougher looking physique. At one time, the protagonist would fight as well, but then we asked ourselves, if you can fight on your own, what's the point of having Pokemon? The fact that features such as buying Pokemon from shopkeepers and the player participating in battles were cut from the final game is also a result of the team deciding to treat Pokemon more like friends instead of pets. It was also around this time that Game Freak started to lean more towards the Pokemon collecting aspect and less towards creating a more traditional RPG. When we were writing the text for the Pokédex, we started talking about how fun it was to collect Pokemon. We felt the story about a boy traveling to fill up his Pokédex was more appropriate for modern times than a tale of a hero battling an evil villain. An early sketch of the Kanto map can also be found inside the document and reveals early landmarks based on the real-life Kanto region in Japan. These landmarks were later reworked into locations such as a Pokemon Tower and Saffron City. Fun fact, Pallet Town is based on Satoshi's hometown Mashida. The Pokeball, referred to as Monster Capsule in the document, also looked quite differently from the final version. Its white and red colors are switched and the button is located on the bottom instead of the side of the ball. Based on this sketch, it's speculated an early idea might have been to shrink down Pokemon to fit inside their Pokeballs, instead of being absorbed by a beam of light. Ken Sugimori, who led the design team, and Atsuko Nishida started drawing loads of different Pokemon designs. Atsuko is actually the one who came up with the design for Pikachu, the 3 starter Pokemon, and many others. Ken always finalized each design and drew every Pokemon in multiple angles to make it easier for his colleagues to get a good understanding of all the pocket monsters and render them the correct way. Both artists kept sketching more and more Pokemon, a lot more than the 151 that ended up in the games. The concept document confirms that over 200 different Pokemon were considered and were in various stages of completion. Developers at Game Freak later confirmed in interviews that multiple Pokemon were indeed scrapped, and that the total number was reduced to their favorite 151 designs. This took a lot of effort according to Junichi Masuda, who worked on the original games as a composer, programmer and designer. To facilitate this and make sure everyone at Game Freak was happy with the designs, the studio organized popularity polls every so often where all the devs were able to provide suggestions and offer feedback. The general look of all Pokemon also went through some changes. At the start of development, most designs had a rather consistent look to them, often resembling dinosaur-like monsters, so it's no coincidence that the first 3 Pokemon ever designed were Rhydon, Clefairy and Lapras. Lots of designs were also created with specific roles in mind, because early on, the devs envisioned Pokemon living alongside humans to help them with specific tasks. Along the way, the developers discovered that battles were rather boring if there's only weak and strong Pokemon. It was clear they needed to introduce more variety in the designs and find a way to make battles more engaging. Therefore, types were introduced to the game's concept midway through development, and now the artists started to think about designs based on specific types such as water and fire. It simultaneously added some much needed strategy to the combat. Furthermore, it gave the team the idea to begin the player's journey by letting them choose a starter Pokemon that's either water, fire, or grass type. An early drawing also showcases a Pokemon hatching from an egg, something that was later introduced in Pokemon Silver and Gold. When all the 151 Pokemon designs were finished and approved, they started brainstorming about all the attack moves each Pokemon could use. There wasn't an initial plan of which Pokemon would receive which moves. Instead, the team came up with the moves separate from their Pokemon designs and then gradually assigned moves that would fit well with each Pokemon. Just this process of designing the Pokemon and their moveset alone took about 3 years to complete. Nowadays, we're used to getting yearly Pokemon games, but Satoshi and his team were coming up with the popular formula of exploring mysterious areas, collecting Pokemon, and fighting your way through all the gyms for the first time ever. Additionally, the team back then was much smaller compared to the 150 plus employees working at Game Freak now. Junichi remembers how only 9 people worked on the original games. We could hardly even be called a company at the time. We were just almost like a college club or something, where people who were interested would just gather and hang out. They'd come to work whenever they want, leave whenever they want. Some people would be sleeping over because they worked so hard into the night. Something the team focused on from the very beginning was interactive communication. Most other developers were using the Game Boy's link cable to compete, but Satoshi saw it as a way to exchange data between players. While he likes competition too, he explained that the concept of one-on-one communication is very Japanese, and he wanted to translate that to a video game. Implementing trading would unfortunately become one of the most challenging aspects throughout development, since it was only possible to transfer tiny amounts of data between 2 Game Boys. Junichi admits that the technology just wasn't there yet, but Game Freak fought to make it happen anyway. A staple of Pokemon games is that every generation has at least 2 versions, but this idea actually didn't come from Game Freak themselves. The developers were thinking of how to make trading more attractive for players, but couldn't immediately come up with the right idea. When Satoshi went to Nintendo to talk about their progress, none other than the creator of Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto, suggested creating 2 separate cartridges with exclusive Pokemon to catch so people would be motivated to trade with each other. Rare and legendary Pokemon that are more difficult to catch were also included for the same reason. With an emphasis on interactive communication and shifting from treating Pokemon as friends instead of pets, it's no surprise that Satoshi explained that he's careful about violence in video games, which is why Pokemon faint rather than die. When a Pokemon runs out of HP, Satoshi was very careful in communicating to the player that the Pokemon is still alive, through the animation, the text on screen, and sound effects. I think that young people playing games have an abnormal concept about dying. They start to lose and say, "I'm dying." It's not right for kids to think about the concept of death that way. They need to treat death with more respect. There was one extremely stressful moment during development that could have destroyed years of work, and perhaps even prevented Pokemon from ever releasing. The original games were developed on Unix computer stations that crashed fairly frequently, but the devs learned how to deal with it without ever losing important data. Except for one time after about 4 years of development, when they had to deal with a very bad crash. Nobody at the studio knew what to do, or how to recover the data that had all of the Pokemon, the main character, the map, and pretty much everything else that was created until that point. Junichi recalls thinking that if they can't recover the files, they would be ruined. After contacting the old company he used to work for, asking people online for help, and reading multiple books about the Unix machines, Junichi and the rest of the team eventually figured out how to recover the data. The soundtrack, sound effects, and Pokemon cries were all composed by Junichi. To accomplish this, he used his Commodore Amiga computer at home and converted his creations to the Game Boy with software he had written himself. With only 4 available sound channels to work with, Junichi had to get extra creative to compose a memorable and fitting soundtrack for the first Pokemon games, as well as unique cries for each Pokemon. Near the end of development in 1996, the team started to get really worried about releasing their games on the Game Boy. The console was almost 7 years old at that point, and it was clear that, at least in Japan, the Game Boy was on a steep decline. It was so bad, in fact, that when the team talked to friends in the game industry, their friends would sound surprised and comment that it's probably not going to sell very well. Even Nintendo had its doubts
Really?
about the project and didn't expect much from it. Earlier on in development, Satoshi was even told that Nintendo didn't really understand the concept of the game and the appeal of collecting monsters. Furthermore, there was a notion in the Japanese game industry that role-playing games created by a Japanese company may not sell well overseas, so Game Freak wasn't even thinking about releasing it outside of Japan at the time. It's safe to say that both Game Freak and Nintendo weren't expecting all that much from Satoshi's Pocket Monsters. Selling 1 million units, for example, would defy their wildest expectations. After 6 long years, Pokémon Red and Pokémon Green were finally finished and released on February 27, 1996 in Japan. That day, the whole team went to different stores to see how the games were doing, and they could tell it was actually selling fairly well. Of course, without social media or the internet as we know it today, they didn't know if people were actually enjoying it, and what the exact numbers were for copies sold. Pretty soon, however, the developers saw deposits from Nintendo coming in, hinting Red and Green were selling even better than they expected. Not long after, newspaper articles were saying how Pokémon was becoming the new big thing with kids, and its popularity quickly started to accelerate from there. It wasn't until later when you started seeing, okay, there's going to be an animated series. Oh, there's going to be a card game. Now there's a manga weekly publication. When those things expanded into this multimedia thing in Japan, we really started to feel like, oh whoa, this is a big deal now. The overwhelming success of Red and Green gave Game Freak the opportunity to develop an improved version called Pokémon Blue, and was made available exclusively for subscribers of CoroCoro Comic in October 1996. It removed a number of bugs and featured graphical changes such as overhauled tile sets, new sprites for all the Pokémon, and more. Unsurprisingly, Blue was used as the basis for all the localized versions, and the American one is responsible for switching Pokémon Green with Pokémon Blue.
Okay.
Originally, it was kind of based on how people feel about and view different colors. The clearest split for us was between Red and Green, but when we started thinking about abroad, it was clear that wasn't the case. In America in particular, it's Red and Blue that are considered opposites, if you will. Localizing Pokémon was by far the biggest technical challenge Game Freak had to deal with, and this all came down to capacity. Squeezing all 151
Red and
Pokémon
Blue,
into the original games was already a difficult
because the
task,
color
and they
theory
had to use
thing.
clever techniques to make
One of them
everything
color
work on the
theories.
cartridge. Unfortunately, the
MR
team discovered that English
do
takes up
color
more space than Japanese.
Me?
Junichi admitted they hadn't really considered localization during development, so changing things like Pokemon names, the name entry screen and the Pokédex, which were all specifically designed in Japanese, was far more difficult and time-consuming than anticipated. Before the games would take America by storm, the animated Pokemon TV show was released weeks prior and proved to be a smart strategic move to get people excited about Pokemon as a universe.
Randomly also
After 8
invokes
years of development officially began, Pokemon Red and Blue were finally
and
released in
water,
North
fire and
America,
water,
and soon in the rest of the
uh,
world,
respectively,
turning
which
Pokemon into a
are
global
seen as more
unforeseen
chaotic
success.
elements than
In
plants.
1997,
Yeah.
it was already the best-selling
Fair
game in
enough.
Japan, surpassing even Final Fantasy VII with 3.65 million copies sold. The
Damn.
games duplicated that achievement in the United States in 1999 by selling 6.1 million copies. Estimated total worldwide sales reached over 31 million copies for the first generation of Pokemon games alone. An important contributing factor for these numbers is the fact that lots of people were buying both versions available to them. What began as a way to motivate players to trade turned into an unexpected financial boost. Junichi Masuda recalls the ridiculous amount of product review requests of companies that wanted to make Pokemon merchandise once the games were available overseas. And while the games certainly generate a lot of money, even to this day, it's the merchandise that catapulted Pokemon to the highest grossing media franchise of all time. The global
That's
success
why we
of
have
the
scalpers
anime also
going
prompted
into
Game
Target
Freak to
and
create yet
fucking
another
ripping
version
everything
of
off the
first
fucking
generation of
walls.
Pokemon games called Pokemon Yellow. It was made with the purpose to more closely resemble the TV show and featured elements like Pikachu as the only starter, your rival receiving Eevee, Team Rocket, and more. Game Freak learned invaluable lessons during those first 6 years of developing Red and Green, which were both very liberating and very challenging. Even though the studio had to work on other projects to keep the lights on, the initial freedom as a young company allowed them to not care about things like sales and investors, resulting in the team solely focusing on being as creative as possible and considering every single idea that came to mind. Despite numerous aspects potentially holding the original games back, it managed to thrive way beyond Game Freak's and Nintendo's expectations. Satoshi's original vision of exploration and monster
Who needs that much
collecting obviously
merch?
struck a chord
Pushes
with
all-
both kids and adults, and continues
Pushes
to do
away
so
shirts
today.
and plushies.
When you're a kid and you get your first bike, you want to go
And actual
somewhere you've never
official
been
gardening
before.
equipment?
That's like
My God.
Pokemon. Everybody shares the same experience, but everybody wants to take it someplace
I think
else.
I have, like-
and you can do that.
I've got like
Receiving
one
a
Pokemon
bicycle as a
plush
present, catching bugs,
of my
and going
favorite.
fishing. I realized that all of these experiences that I felt were just mine were shared
Which I
by
need-
all kids. I guess that's why people all around
As you
the
know, I
world
do have a
embraced
couple
it.
other things. I'm literally like staring at them right now. Oh, that's the video. Cool. Yeah, like, I'm literally staring at them right now. I have a Totodile and a Rowlet sitting on top of my computer, and then I have like a Feraligatr up on a mantle. Pokemon release gardening sets. My God. Let's have a look. See what else is here. I don't think I've ever. I haven't seen this channel before. Oh, he's got another video on gold and silver. Give it a minute. There's an entire part of their website for gardening. Oh God.
In the beginning of 1996,
Do you
Pokemon
know?
Red and Green became a massive success in Japan, so it seemed obvious to start developing sequels right away. And while that is what initially happened, the studio behind Pokemon, Game Freak, had spent 6 long years bringing Red and Green to life. By the time Gold and Silver entered production, not only was the team completely exhausted, the studio was also running out of money. On top of that, Satoshi Tajiri, the creator of Pokemon, wanted Gold and Silver to be the most complete, ultimate Pokemon experience. Games so ambitious that in hindsight, they would still hold up against entries released decades later. Meanwhile, the team also had to pour time and energy into various other projects, including making other games to stay in business. What was initially estimated as a year's worth of work turned into a
Don't
3-year
you
project.
do it.
To better understand the multiple delays, design decisions, and why lots of content had to be cut, we have to go back to March 1996, right after Pokemon Red and Green released in Japan. The games were flying off the shelves, and it quickly became clear Pokemon had the potential to become not just a hit in Japan, but a global phenomenon. To ensure its success, 2 things had to happen at the same time. The original games needed to be prepared for an international release, and the team had to start creating sequels. However, the developers at Game Freak were mentally and physically exhausted from pushing themselves to the limit for 6 years creating Red and Green. To help relieve some of that
$35
exhaustion
sun
and
hat with
pressure,
Squirtle.
one of the first things the studio did was hire more developers.
They put a
That said,
snake
the
on
core
it,
programming team
though
stayed
no
surprisingly
promises.
small. Gold
God
and
damn it.
Silver had only 4 programmers, the same as Red and Green. In total, about 20 developers worked on the sequels. Unfortunately, Game Freak was now facing another problem. According to Junichi Masuda, the composer of Red and Green, the studio was running short on development funds. After Red and Green came out and the follow-up games, we didn't have a lot of money.
You'd
We were
think
kind of
with
out of
a
money.
game series that like sold gangbusters on the first go, you'd have a lot more income to work with. Makes me think that Nintendo was kind of like, yeah, we get the majority of this because we gave you a bunch of money. It's like, to be fair, it would be an investment to the developers, but if you want a sequel, you should probably put a chunk of that change into the next game.
money at that point because we had spent all the development funds and everything, so we needed to make some other games to stay in business. Therefore, Junichi himself was initially not involved with the production of Silver and Gold, as he had to step
Really?
away to work on Bazaru the Gozaru, New Game the Gozaru, and Warriors Legend of the Blue Dragon, 2 Game Freak games that were never released outside of Japan. Despite
Oh.
being low on funds, Satoshi Tajiri decided that the sequels to Red and Green should be the ultimate Pokemon games.
Why do they not
His
make
goal was
a
to add so many
batting
big
set?
improvements that fans would look
Make
back on the games
Ivy
fondly,
Pokemon
even after
that
many
references
years.
Marie
Satoshi
Antoinette
felt the titles had to reflect that ambition.
was on a
Early
gate
on,
to
before
a
much of
garden
anything was
and
locked
owned
in,
a
he thought
tea
it might be a
garden
nice
in
idea
Pokemon
to call
Park
the
2.
games Pink or Purple. However, he didn't want fans to see the
Let them
sequels
eat
simply
cake,
as
she said.
extensions of the originals. So he decided to move away from the color theme entirely and name the games after rare materials instead, as a way of signaling a significant leap forward for the franchise. Before we move on, I'd like to talk about this
You're the
video's
snake just
sponsor,
happened.
ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is a virtual private network. It basically
Yeah,
serves
that's
as a
right.
tunnel between your device and the internet and keeps your online activity private
I
and
remember
secure.
you saying
Furthermore,
that.
it allows you to watch content from streaming platforms that would be inaccessible without ExpressVPN.
Is that an ad?
It's been around since 2009. Issue IOL's password was blocked its Creek using. With the broad vision starting to take shape, the team shifted to specific gameplay ideas. One priority they kept coming back to was accessibility. They expected Gold and Silver to be a lot of players' first Pokemon game, so they looked for ways to make Pokemon easier to understand for people of all ages. One of their early solutions was an in-game magazine called Pokemon Journal. The idea was that players could find copies while checking random bookshelves, then read short articles with details about Pokemon, useful items, and little updates about what was happening in different towns and cities. While this feature didn't make it in the final games, a version of Pokemon Journal did exist in a demo from 1997, but more on that later. A lot of the features Gold and Silver introduced might feel normal now. Things like a day and night cycle, Pokemon holding items, breeding, male and female versions of all Pokemon, roaming legendaries, and even shiny Pokemon.
Yeah.
But at the time, they were considered revolutionary additions. Several ideas for a new Pokédex were also discussed. In the first games, you couldn't search Pokemon by name or sort them by type, and Satoshi wanted the upgraded Pokédex to feel more like a real tool instead of a static list. Furthermore, the team considered the fact that some players might not have any friends that also play Pokemon, so they started experimenting with ways to make the world feel more social. That's where the Pokegear and its phone feature comes in. It allowed players to collect phone numbers from NPCs who would then periodically call you for updates and rematches. In July 1996, about 4 months after development began, the sequels were officially announced in an issue of CoroCoro Comic. They were revealed simply as Pokemon 2, alongside the debut of the first new Pokemon, Ho-Oh, and a targeted release window of spring 1997.
The only
But
thing
despite
is
the big
part of its
reveal, the
success, Pokemon's
reality
first
is that
demo
not much
had a
had been
female
built yet,
protagonist,
because
and
Game Freak was
they
extremely
always
busy
made
dealing with other
they
important
could
things.
be
The sudden, massive popularity of
as strong
Pokemon
as men.
meant that
Okay.
preparing the previous generation of games for a worldwide release took priority. Additionally, the franchise began expanding into
Eevee
other
and
lanes
Pikachu were
that each came with their own
created
production
to cater
schedules,
towards
partners,
girls.
and
Okay.
deadlines. For instance, the Pokemon trading card game launched in Japan in October 1996, and the anime began airing in April 1997. Around the same time, Satoshi was starting to feel the weight of his role, not only as Pokemon's creator, but also as the president of Game Freak. He had many responsibilities, and with everything happening at once, the sequel's early development moved slower than anticipated. That's when Junichi Masuda was brought back in and began taking on a big portion of Satoshi's workload and day-to-day leadership on the project. Development wasn't going as well as we had hoped it would. At that point, I kind of took over and we decided to make the game based on Kyoto, and we sort of rapidly developed the game from that point on. Ever since then, Satoshi mostly stepped out of the public spotlight and let other people handle the day-to-day development, while he focuses on research and the bigger picture concepts. Once development started moving faster, Ken Sugimori and the other artists had to shift into overdrive, because Gold and Silver needed a whole new wave of Pokemon designs. Ken shared in an interview that generally Pokemon are inspired by a shape, figure, or creature that already exists. Other times, the design process goes the other way around, with the artist thinking about what would be interesting from a gameplay perspective first. For Gold and Silver specifically, it was important to introduce new Pokemon types to better balance the games, as it was clear that Psychic Pokemon dominated the original games. While the team was creating plenty of brand new Pokemon, they also pulled in some unused designs from the first games and gave them a second chance in Gold and
You
Silver.
even
On
wanted
top
to,
of that,
the
they
mascot
started
to
looking
be
back at the
Clefairy
original
to attract
roster
more
and asking new questions. What would be interesting to see evolve into something bigger, and which Pokemon felt like they were missing a pre-evolution? Other designs
now,
came from a
but
sudden burst of
always
inspiration.
felt catering to girls
Ken has
as
said it's
much
usually
as
pretty
boys
easy
is
to look at a
part of why
Pokemon and
Pokemon
guess what it was inspired
remain
by. So he
stronger.
wanted to create a design where the origin wasn't immediately obvious. Something that felt like
With
it could have come
Cinnamon,
from outer
Luckily,
space or another dimension.
much
And
versus
that's
its
how
media.
Unknown was
Okay.
born. This time around, Game Freak also considered how new designs
Also
would affect
alienating half the
merchandising and animated
half the
series
human
that was in the
population
works.
doubles.
Therefore, in some cases,
Not alienating
designs were
half the
altered to
human
make it
population
easier to
doubles
animate those
profits.
Pokemon in a TV
About that.
show. A
I
lot
don't
of
know how
ideas
that
also
works.
came
Oh
from
my
the
god.
developers' own childhood memories.
How could this be?
Sometimes comforting ones, sometimes unsettling ones that stuck with them for years. Ken shared one example. When he was a kid, he had a pet bird, and one day he was shocked to see it standing on only one leg. He later learned that was perfectly normal for that kind of bird, but the image stayed with him. That small moment inspired him to create Hoot Hoot. Just like during the development of the previous games, the team wasn't concerned about how much memory was available on the Game Boy, knowing they would have to cut many designs later on. By 1997, the games already counted over 350 Pokemon, meaning at least 100 had to be removed by the end of development. Many of these scrap Pokemon were included in the 1997 demo shown at Nintendo Space World, a live trade show where Nintendo showcased upcoming games and hardware. Lots of scrap pre-evolutions and evolutions of Gen 1 Pokemon could be seen in the demo, such as baby forms for Paris, Growlite, Doduo and Goldeen, plus evolved forms for Pinsir, Tangela, Farfetch'd and Ditto. The demo also revealed that two different starters were considered during development. Instead of Cyndaquil, it featured a bear-like Pokemon called Flambear, and instead of Totodile, a sea-like Pokemon called Cruz was a water
I would
starter.
never
And as
forgive them if
mentioned
they didn't give
earlier,
me
the in-game
Totodile.
magazine Pokemon Journal was accessible in the Space World demo using the player's PC. The demo also included a few early hints about the story. In Professor Oak's opening narration, he says that a year earlier, two boys helped him complete the Pokédex. After that, new Pokemon species began appearing across the country, which prompted Oak to leave Kanto and move to Silent Hill, an obvious placeholder name for what will become New Bark Town. He sets up a new lab there, and now he needs help researching and
Unexpected
discovering
Silent
these
Hill
newly
reference,
emerging
okay.
Pokemon. What's especially interesting is this text was only discovered after the demo leaked online in 2018, and people were able to play the
Wow.
demo's story mode, which was inaccessible at the Space World event itself. Needless to say, Oak's monologue is very different in the final release. During the Space World event in 1997, Satoshi Tajiri actually commented on the story when he was asked whether characters from the original games would return. He said there would be a different protagonist, but that familiar faces like Ash and Professor Oak would show up again. He also hinted that Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket, would make his return too. Early builds back up that statement, as Giovanni can be found in a 1997 demo at the radio tower, and he even appears as an Elite Four member in the Space World demo from 1999. However, in the final versions of Gold and Silver, Giovanni never appears at all. Another significant difference in the 1997 demo is the layout of the Johto region map. In the final games, Johto bears a close resemblance to Japan's Kansai region, but in that earlier build, the map looks closer to a rough, compressed version of all of Japan. Because of that, it's
All water
very
stars are
possible
valid.
the original plan
Totodile
was
is my
something
boy.
broader, before Junichi stepped in and pushed for a stronger identity,
love
one
him.
that leaned into the feel of older Japanese cities like Kyoto, Nara, and Osaka. During development, Junichi even did on-site research in Kyoto, riding around in taxis and talking with drivers to learn more about local landmarks. Places like the Toji and Kinkakuji temples would go on to inspire locations such as the bell tower in the games. The four programmers struggled to implement every single new feature, as well as include 251 Pokemon, 100 more than in the original games. As a result, load times were sluggish, battles could take a while to start, and there was even a noticeable pause when Pokemon popped out of their Pokeballs in battle. Halfway through development, Game Freak upgraded from a 2 megabit Game Boy cartridge to a 4 megabit cartridge. That gave them the extra space needed to include the Kanto region, effectively doubling the amount of content. But it didn't fix performance because the code simply wasn't written in an efficient and optimized way. This is where the late Satoru Iwata comes in. At the time, he wasn't working at Nintendo yet. He was the president of HAL Laboratory, the studio best known for Kirby and the Mother series.
Yeah,
Iwata
perfect
was
for
also a
protective
board
style,
member
yeah.
at Creatures Inc., the company that handled a lot of the licensing requests before the Pokemon Company was established in 1998 and took over brand management. That connection is what pulled Iwata into Pokemon in the first place, because he became involved with analyzing the best way to localize the overseas versions of Pokemon Red and Green. He would study the source code himself, then relay localization advice back to the relevant team at Nintendo. Once Iwata got familiar with the code, he took it upon himself to port the battle system over to the Nintendo 64 for Pokemon Stadium, which completely stunned Shigeki Morimoto, one of the programmers on Red and Green. I created that battle program and it really took a long time to put together, but when I heard that Iwata-san had been able to port it over in about a week and that it was already working, well, I thought, what kind of company president is this? I was saying things like, is that guy a programmer or is he the president? After seeing how capable Iwata was as a programmer, it makes sense why Game Freak reached out to him for help on Gold and Silver. Iwata studied the in-house engine they'd built from scratch and dug through the assembly code that was powering the games. And once he understood how everything fit together, he built compression tools that cut down on load times and improved performance in areas where the games were really struggling. The founder of Creatures Inc., Tsunekazu Ishihara, was a producer on both Red and Green and Silver and Gold. To ensure Gold and Silver's chances of success, Tsunekazu himself not only approved many licensing requests, but also developed products like the trading card game. He treated Gold and Silver like a personal finish line, as he genuinely thought that once these games were done, he'd be finished with Pokemon. So he went all in while the window was still open, trying to set the franchise up as strongly as possible before handing it off.
This implies Game Freak
There was
was
one thing
never
he
that
almost
good
didn't
at
approve, and it's probably
optimization.
the
They
last
just
thing you'd
lost
expect.
people.
Tsunekazu initially pushed
People
back on
going
the
through.
anime
They just lost
because
people going
after
through.
looking
What is
into
this
it, they saw
code?
that most animated series only last 6 months, maybe a year.
How do
The
they
series
get
was
actual
set to begin
spaghetti
airing
in here?
April 1997, and at that point, Gold and Silver were planned for a 1998 release. Tsunekazu felt
so
it would
there's
be a
talented
bad look
devs,
if
but
Silver and
people
Gold came out after
able
the
to
anime had
go,
already been cancelled. Of
"We don't
course,
kn-
no one
we
could have
don't know
predicted
what
at the
we're
time that the
doing. Can you
Pokemon
help
anime
us?"
would be one of the most popular animated series of all time, and would still be going strong almost 30 years later. Even though Junichi Masuda had already taken on a big share of the directing responsibilities, he still worked on the soundtrack too, and he did it using the same pipeline he used on Red and Green. Junichi composed the tracks on a Commodore Amiga, converted them into MIDI data, and then ran that MIDI data through software he had written himself to convert it into data the Game Boy could actually play. After a string of delays, Gold and Silver were still aiming for a 1998 release window, but ongoing work on other projects like Pokemon Yellow kept pushing the schedule back. In the end, Yellow took the 1998 release slot that Gold and Silver originally held. Then, after 3 long years of development, Pokemon Gold and Silver finally launched in Japan in November 1999. After only a single day, Silver and Gold had sold 1.4 million copies. By April 2000, the two games had moved roughly 6.5 million units in Japan, completely shattering the sales record of the previous entries. When the games were released in the US, they sold a combined 1.4 million copies in their first week, more than double what Pokemon Yellow sold in the same time frame. That made them the fastest selling games of their time. By the end of their run, Gold and Silver had sold over 23 million copies worldwide, making them the third best-selling Game Boy title, behind Tetris and the original Pokemon games. It's probably safe to say that Game Freak succeeded in their mission to create the ultimate Pokemon games with Silver and Gold. More than 25 years later, they're still talked about as some of the best Pokemon games ever made. And for a lot of fans, they're the benchmark new games get compared to. Gold and Silver were followed up by Pokemon Crystal a year later, and it was the first Pokemon title fully directed
steak
by Junichi
flushes.
Masuda.
Oh
According
no!
to Ken Sugimori, the main reason Game Freak made Pokemon Crystal was because Nintendo needed a good launch title to help sell the mobile adapter GB, a peripheral that allowed the Game Boy Color to connect to a mobile phone and utilize its cellular network. The game's title is tied to that idea. Crystal was meant to evoke the crystals used in electronic transmissions. Tsunekazu Ishihara didn't end up leaving Pokemon behind after Gold and Silver. He admitted he couldn't walk away once the sequel sold even faster than the originals. Thanks to him and many others, Pokemon grew into the biggest media franchise in the world. The most recent mainline games, Scarlet and Violet, have become the second best-selling Pokemon games ever, passing 27 million copies sold. With 2026 marking Pokemon's 30th anniversary, it shows no signs of slowing down. At the same time, Tsunekazu worries that if Pokemon ever gets too complacent, the franchise will run into trouble. With Pokemon already facing lots of criticism for leaning too hard on the same formula, it's hard not to wonder when that might happen. If we continue focusing on our mission, Pokemon
You'll
can
get
probably
your plush
continue to its
someday.
50th or 100th
You'll
anniversary.
get your
But if we
snake
become
plushes someday.
complacent and go with the flow, that's when
You
Pokemon will
you
go
get your
downhill.
Sephiroth
What is my favorite snack?
and your Ekans. Alright. They were only in China? What? Heuristic studies. Why does that sound familiar? Actually, kind of curious on this. The history of it was the Black Lotus, a history of Magic's most valuable card. Let's have a look. See.
Between the Chicago Bulls and the Utah Jazz. And for more on these two clubs, let's check in with the dean, Ahmad Rashad.
All right, thanks, Marv. At 3:30 this morning, Michael Jordan woke up with flu-like symptoms. He had a stomach ache and a headache, and he couldn't go back to sleep. He threw up all night, and as reported earlier, he missed a shoot-around, but he was in bed all day and continued to throw up.
All right, thanks, Ahmad.
Damn.
In the summer of 1997, a ball boy from Utah sat in a dark locker room with the biggest superstar in sports. On the brink of one of the most pivotal games of his career, Michael Jordan was as sick as a dog.
What does
and
this have to
Preston
do
Truman,
with
an
Magic
ordinary
cards?
teenager caught in an extraordinary circumstance, had the nerve to ask him one simple question. Hey Michael, got any plans for your shoes after the game?
Freezes the defense, the jumper, net. Then he staggers back to the bench, near exhaustion, ready to fall over. They put the ice bag on his neck. He won't even take the Gatorade.
He doesn't want to waste any energy.
The Bulls won that game and then took the championship, and as promised, MJ signed the shoes and gave them to Truman. 16 years later, in December 2013, the infamous flu game Air Jordan 12s sold for $104,000 at auction.
Jesus.
First and third, 2 out.
Just so
1998,
likely wouldn't
Mark
pay a
McGwire broke
$200
the single
Pokemon
season home
plushie
run
ever.
record with this hit. The
Unless.
game ball that met the swing sold at auction for $2.6 million. Todd McFarlane was the buyer. The entrepreneur and creator of Spawn also purchased Sammy Sosa's 66th home run baseball for $175,000 that same year.
I think
In
he likes
2003,
baseball.
He rounded out the trinity of his collection with the addition of Barry Bonds' 73rd home run ball for $517 grand. 3 baseballs, $3 million. But if you know anything about these guys, June 2014, Stuart Weitzman, world-renowned shoe designer and entrepreneur, purchased the fabled British Guiana 1-cent stamp for $9.7 million at auction. Measuring in at 0.04 grams, it has been quoted as the most valuable item in the world by weight. For 3 years between 2015 and 2018, it was on display in the Smithsonian, giving the public access for the first time to one of the rarest collectible curiosities in history.
And I love geography, so it provided a bit of an education, a lot of fun. It was a childhood thing. You know, I eventually gave it up.
You thought you gave it up.
Well, yeah.
It's a Hatsune
In May
Miku
2016,
figure on
another
the
beloved staple
Pokemon
hit the
website.
public
I'm
market.
kind of not
Inverted
surprised.
Jennies have always been coveted, but this one in particular sold for $1.3 million in New York to a private collector. Just another day at the lot.
This is the Jenny invert plate number block. It's worth about $3 million. It's
Jesus
$3
Christ.
million.
I
Narrowing
don't
in
know.
on
It
geek
looks like
culture
it costs
provides similar
about just
stories.
under $1.
Action Comics #1, the book that debuted Superman to the 1938 Depression-ridden United States and introduced the concept of superheroes to the world in the process, is comics' version of the inverted Jenny. Its most pristine copy was preserved like a mummy in a dark and humid cabin in the mountains of West Virginia for decades until it hit eBay in 2014. Final selling price, $3.2 million. In the world
Christ.
of collectible trading cards, there are a few
Welcome
names
to
that move
baseball
through hobby
fans, they're
circles like urban
horrifying.
legends around Campfire. For those steeped in baseball cards,
I
everyone
mean,
knows
if
the
you're
myth
if
of the
you're
Gretzky
sitting all
T206
day
Honus Wagner.
eating
Already an
really
extremely rare
expensive,
card by all
disgusting
measures, this one has
hot
a history
dogs
all its own.
and
As the
stale
story
beer,
goes, the
I
first
think you
recorded
would go a bit
transaction
stir
occurred between
crazy.
Alan Ray
Or
and Bill
basketball.
Mastro,
Never mind.
who then quickly
Well,
flipped
that
the card
too.
for 4 times his investment to buyer Jim Copeland. Copeland then sold the card to hockey
Baseball
legend
too.
Wayne Gretzky and LA Kings owner Bruce McNall in 1991 for $451,000. The high-profile figures brought with them sharp eyes and skeptics who noticed the card's unusual outer shape, leading
Baseball
to the eventual
stadium
trial of Bill
food
Mastro
is
for
great,
having
actually.
altered the
Okay.
edges to increase its commercial appeal.
Bill Mastro cut the edges of that card with a paper
It's
cutter
a
to make
whole
it
thing of
look more
its
pristine,
own,
to make it
but
look
it's
better.
better
And
than
then sold
some
the
gourmet
card,
restaurants.
or was involved in the sale of that card numerous times without disclosing to anybody in the market that he had manipulated the card.
In 2013, Mastro confessed in federal court to trimming the T206 Honus Wagner, then later served time in prison for utilizing shill bidding schemes in his auctions for other memorabilia. After Gretzky, though, the Wagner moved through a few hands, eventually ending up in the collection of Arizona Diamondbacks owner Ken Kendrick for the hefty cost of $2.8 million.
Basketball and
He still
football
has the
food
card.
is awful. Okay.
T206 Honus Wagner equivalents are present in the 3 most popular trading card games, but they have yet to match such a commanding price tag. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, the tournament Blackluster Soldier is rumored to be valued in the millions. This card is a one-of-a-kind print on stainless steel and was awarded to the winner of the game's very first tournament in Japan back in 1999.
Bloody
Until
hell.
it sells, though, that price is just a number. Pokemon's version of Honus Wagner has certainly sold, however. In 2017, a first edition Shadowless and holographic Charizard sold on eBay for $55,000. The card sported a perfect 10 from Beckett Grading Services, a company that upholds the toughest criteria in the business, and carried that pristine rating all the way to the bank. Sidewalk kids from the 90s are perhaps now receiving their very first big payday when it comes to collectible cards.
Charizard, you saved our lives!
And for those of us deeply invested in the world of Magic the Gathering, we have...
Holy burst! Holy! Oh my god! Holy crap! That shouldn't happen.
You're really looking back into the early 90s and a somewhat different gaming landscape to today's, of course. There's a card which is perhaps the most fabled in the game, which is called the Black Lotus.
In 1993, when Magic hit West Coast gaming shelves for the first time, breaking new design territory and revolutionizing the market in the process, I didn't yet know how to read. 20 years later, and just before graduating college, I found the game that had since become a global phenomenon. Not long after learning the rules and playing a few matches, I asked the question
They
that
drink the
perhaps everyone
Yankees
does at
and the
some point
Mets
near the
hire
beginning.
like
What is the
5-star
most
chefs.
powerful card in the
What?
game? Well, it's this one.
God
the
damn.
Black Lotus. In a world of hungering hydras, savvy wizards, menacing dragons, and mind control, you mean to tell me a flower in a field is the kingpin? The
Yes.
short answer is yes, absolutely, and the reasons for which are at the center of this study. First, I'd like to contextualize this card for those unfamiliar. Black Lotus is the centerpiece to a collection of cards nicknamed the Power 9, all having been banned or restricted in every playable format except for one, and all of which come from the game's debut set, when designers were still learning how to balance every tiny moving part. The other 8 members of this group are, if you'll indulge me a little bit. Ancestral Recall, a blue spell that grants high card advantage at too little a cost. Time Walk, another blue card that lets players take extra turns and advance their resources while their opponent twiddles their thumbs. Time Twister, a third blue card and the weakest of the 9, which resets resources and exploits other card drawing effects. Then the 5 Moxen. Pearl, Sapphire, Jet, Ruby, and Emerald. Black Lotus does what these 5 do, but better. Much better. In a turn-based game driven entirely by cost and effect, these artifacts provide players extra advantage with virtually no drawback. And since, unlike their blue affiliates, they could be included in any deck, anyone who chose not to was bringing checkers to a chess match. After its monumental debut in 1993, game creator Dr. Richard Garfield and his designers were facing 2 unforeseen issues for Magic. The first and most pressing, they did not expect the Power 9 to show up in high quantities in individual decks.
When they sat down to playtest the game, Richard Garfield and his friends in the maths department of the University of Pennsylvania, they tried to simulate what it would be like for people to be playing this game in real life. So they printed up on a very rudimentary on a photocopier, made a number of copies of the cards and sort of mixed them all up in a big bin bag and doled them out to the playtesters. And they were thinking, well, once this game comes out, maybe people will buy one deck of cards, and maybe a few supplementary cards, and that'll be what they're playing with. So they'd underestimated the power of a lot of these cards in the game, including this fabled Power 9, which are today worth a lot of money.
The second issue was a direct result of the first. Players wanted power, but faced very scarce supply. Both Alpha and Beta, the first 2 Magic base sets, sold out almost immediately after printing. So in response to immense demand, Wizards ran a third print run of the same cards from Beta and called the expansion Unlimited. To keep collectors happy, Unlimited had white bordered cards, as opposed to Alpha and Beta's black borders, and sought to saturate the market in order to give players a better
Want to spend $50 on a Pokemon figure because it has mushrooms?
Only 4 months after its release, Unlimited sold out too. To put this in perspective, here are the numbers. The Alpha print run made 2.6 million cards. Beta printed 7.3 million. Unlimited, despite its name, tripled the quantity of the first 2 sets combined and printed over 35 million cards. All 45 million cards were sold out 5 months before Magic's first anniversary.
Yeah, you should probably leave the Pokemon website.
These sets alone were the only physical copies of the Power 9. In other words, every tournament-legal Black Lotus in existence was printed in 1993 and never again. Writer Chaz Andres broke these numbers down even further in his article All About Alpha from 2012 in order to better pinpoint the total number of first edition Lotuses we have. He writes, Alpha contained 295 cards. The print run for each rare in Alpha was just 1,100, meaning all of the Alpha Black Lotuses to ever exist could fit inside a single long box.
Here comes the first Alpha Rare. At 8 minutes in, will it be the Lotus?
Now, you may be asking, why not print more Lotuses? Of the 79 expansions, 18 core sets, and myriad supplemental products across the game's 25-year lifespan, why has the Power 9 only shown up in 3 sets? Well, this is the part of the story that gets very, very tricky. Rewind the clocks back again to 1995. Magic is doing extremely well, and part of the reason for its success is because of powerful cards like Black Lotus gaining monetary and nostalgic value in the secondary market. Not only was the game engaging enough to keep players highly invested, but collectability began to take shape in the community as it had done in baseball cards and the like.
And now we see a tropical island, and now we see Justin fanning out his 8 cards, playing a Sulphurous Spring, and oh my, it looks like a Black Lotus.
In July 1995, Wizards released Chronicles, which was an extension of the 4th edition core set and introduced 0 new cards to the game. Its function was purely to meet the high demand and low supply crisis that had been plaguing Magic since its inception. It sought to put booster packs in the hands of players who couldn't buy cards in sold-out game stores. But unlike Unlimited, it was printed into the ground, adding 180 million cards to the markets, and resulting in many of the game's most prized possessions to lose nearly all their value overnight. Collectors put forth a rebuttal, and advocated for a better reprint policy moving forward. So in May of the following year, published first in the Duelist magazine issue number 10, Wizards of the Coast responded to the resistance with the installment of the Reserved List. We have decided to expand on our previous policies by creating a new category of cards, called the Reserved List, that will never be printed again in black or white border in game functionally identical form. On this list was the Black Lotus. In its infancy, the Reserved List was well received and celebrated by players. The cards on the list were safe from reprints, which meant they naturally had the potential to appreciate in value as the game grew in popularity. And at that time, supplemental sets did not yet exist, so strong cards like the Power 9 already had virtually no chance to see reprints in tournament legal expansions. The Reserved List at first acted as the perfect middle ground between providing for players and appeasing collectors. Since then, it has become the central target of all disdain for critics of inflated prices of old-school Magic cards. And like many folks, if given the choice, Mark Rosewater would never have implemented the list in the first place. Regardless, it exists, and for the most part has remained intact since May of 1996. A pair of revisions have taken place, resulting in a handful of classic cards like Demonic Tutor and Clone being removed from the list in 2002. In 2010,
It's Liquid
Wizards
Snake with a
experimented with reprinting a
snake.
few Reserved List cards in foil, toying with a loophole that claims the original decree never stated against the publishing of premium versions. Players backlashed, claiming this violated the spirit of the list, which resulted in Wizards extending the promise to include foil versions of these cards in their no reprint policy. If you could just introduce yourself and what you do in the Magic community, and then we'll go from there.
So my name is Douglas Johnson, but everybody calls me DJ. I buy and sell Magic cards for a living.
For this video, I wanted to talk to Douglas Johnson for a few reasons. The first being to gather his thoughts on the Reserved List.
I mean, Mark Rosewater, every designer, every person employed at Wizards would probably love for the Reserve List to go away, but it's really hard to make that argument to a Hasbro lawyer. I don't think the Reserve List can go away. I think it's too late to try to mess with the Jenga blocks.
Since reprinting Black Lotus is out of the question, given its place on the Reserved List, why not just abandon the policy altogether? If Magic's lead designer and foremost figure in R&D wants it gone, what's stopping the company from making another revision like they've done in the past, and simply removing all the cards from the list? Again, this part is very tricky, and like DJ said, it's a matter of the law. Luckily, we have some brilliant people who play Magic and can theorize about the ramifications of abolishing the Reserved List. Scott Peitzer, an attorney with interest in contract law, is one such figure. In June 2018, he published the first installment in a series of articles called Contract from Below on MTG Goldfish, in which he details the principle of promissory estoppel and how it applies to this situation. First and foremost, Peitzer outlines the anatomy of a contract, claiming that Wizards' article in the Duelist magazine never possessed consideration, one of a contract's three core elements. As such, despite the Reserved List being a promise to players, it is not legally a contract, and therefore not enforceable by law. The caveat, of course, is promissory estoppel, which essentially gives a judge discretion to enforce the promise as if it were a contract. In theory, a player could sue Wizards for promissory estoppel if they reprinted Black Lotus, but they would have to prove that the case possessed all the elements required for promissory estoppel, and furthermore would potentially only receive the difference between the price paid and the fair market value after reprints. For example, if I bought Black Lotus for $3,000 and the price tanked to $1,000 because of a reprint, I could only sue for $2,000, and not for the value I expected from investment. And once again, the repayment of such damages are ultimately at the discretion of the judge. And there are a lot more details that Scott will get into. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and so I have nothing more to say with regards to the court. I'll leave that to Peitzer's future articles.
How long
So
have
to
we been
recap,
streaming? Hang on.
Of the 9 most
That's alright.
powerful cards in the game, Black Lotus is the centerpiece. Moreover, it was only ever printed in 3 sets back in 1993, and can never be printed again because of an old promise that the makers of the game have since regretted. As a result of these 3 elements, Black Lotus has evolved from just another cut of cardstock into the most desirable item in the history of Magic.
My name is Zakil Gordon. I'm a product data professional and collectible entrepreneur.
As I went further down the rabbit hole into the world of collector's goods, I wanted to know who was buying and selling Black Lotuses. So I called up my good friend Zakil to talk.
Flashback to my local game store. I remember walking in when they give you the 30 card sample decks, and at the same time you can look in the glass case and you see all the cards. And I remember specifically seeing Black Lotus, Mox Jet, even the dual lands, and realizing like, holy cow, this game is everything that all these other secondary markets are, but more.
I also wanted the perspective of a seller. Enter again Douglas Johnson.
I guess the backstory to this entire story itself is that a close friend of mine came across a collection that was basically the Holy Grail. It was the collection that everybody dreams about, or that friends lie to their friends about finding at a yard sale or whatever. The kind of collection where somebody used a volcanic island as a bookmark for Aragon, that kind of thing.
Back when kids were using Magic cards to keep their pages in fantasy novels, Lotus was less than $100. By 2002, according to Scry magazine, an Alpha Lotus hovered around $500. 11 years later, in 2013, the auction for the same card commanded an asking price of $27,000. Now, Zakil and DJ weren't dealing with the first edition Near Mint Alphas, but the cost of beta and unlimited copies were still in the thousands at the time of their purchases, and have only gone up since. Zakil's first Lotus was one of the latter.
I knew someone was selling one, and I believe at the time it was for a total of $1,700, and I made him an offer, and I said, if I'm going to do this, this is not only going to be for my cube and for my collection, but this is going to be my dedication to the best game ever made. So I bought that for my cube, and then suddenly I became the guy.
I drove up to meet him at his place, and I brought a loop. I brought a friend who could also help verify the authenticity of the card. It was a very good condition, unlimited Lotus that I purchased last year for a little over $3,000.
For trading cards of this value,
You Pokemon Trainer Art one is a gym leader.
Always threatens the former,
going to have an
and so
Elite
buyers
Four
and sellers
version.
must know how to verify that these cards came from the presses
Want it
of
to look like a
1993
real
and
gym
nowhere
leader
else.
with a
To do
real
so, there are a few
gym
methods
leader
to confirm
team.
the card
Okay.
is not a fake. The first is a bit tough to watch. Known as the bend test, this technique tries the integrity of the materials inside. Fakes will crease and wrinkle at the folds, but authentic cards like Zakil's first Lotus here will show nothing of the sort.
Touches? It does bend, but there is no crease, which is the important thing that we're looking for.
Secondly, like DJ said, a jeweler's loop can pick out inconsistent ink patterns on false cards.
Is that what
This
they're
video
called?
from
Jeweler's
Kingslayer
loop?
Games in California shows us the rosettes a real card should possess, and then how they appear on fake pieces of Unlimited.
The set symbols and then also the text on cards is going to be a second layer of ink on top of the other ink. So rosettes underneath, black ink on top.
Real.
We've got nice rosettes on the blue part of the card, and the ink pattern is recognizable to other authentic cards for the rest of it.
And fake.
If it was authentic, would be just
Oh,
flat
okay.
printed right on top of the card, which it is clearly not.
A real text box.
So
on an
you'd
Unlimited left
okay. So I'm guessing how they
Same
do it
thing
is that
on.
you
So you've
have
got
the
rosette
prints,
patterns make a whole lot of
and then
sense how
for
these
like
cards are
certain
printed, and then
details
the
they'll
black
do
ink for the
stamps.
text of the card as well is printed. As you
Interesting.
can tell, it just kind of floats above the other layer of ink.
And the text box on a fake.
I'm just watching
Unlimited
this. I'm not even animating anymore. I'm just
Should
I'm
be
interested in how this
above
works.
the other ink, and it's clearly not.
The light test is another bar to hurdle. Here's a video from Christopher Lamb showing a fake signed Lotus through the light of his cell phone. As opposed to a real Magic card, the counterfeit one has blotchy, inconsistent ink patterns throughout the core of the card.
Hmm.
And you can see that it's just uneven, totally off. And that explains why the card did not feel real to me.
The final way to verify authenticity is by sending the card to a grading
I'm
service.
assuming these have
As of now,
leader
the two
teams
leading names
are
in
not
the
gym
business are
leader
Professional
teams like
Sports
the fan
Authenticator,
artists.
PSA for short, and BGS,
Elite Four is
known
usually
better
more
as Vector.
detailed,
After
and
buying
also
a
gym
Black
leaders
Lotus,
canonically have
DJ sent
limitations,
his to
so
the latter, which,
new
like I
kids
said
can
earlier,
beat them. Okay.
holds their grades to higher criteria.
As somebody who had never dealt in a X $1,000 card before, I messaged a couple of friends of mine who deal with it regularly. I sent them very high-end scans of the card, and one of those people just said, hey, I think this is a good
They have different teams based on how many badges the person fighting them
has.
has.
And send it in for grading. If it comes back as an
Want to limit
8.5,
yourself
you're
to a
looking at
team
extra, like,
that
$500 to
felt
$1,000.
like
If
a
it comes back as a 9, you're looking
team.
at extra.
It
$2,000
have an official
is
game.
gonna be really
Okay.
good for you.
Little did DJ know.
No
the card was in
starters, no
almost
legendaries.
perfect
Something a
condition.
kid could be.
Got an
Okay.
email first that said what the grade was, and I thought it was incorrect, and I thought it must have been wrong, and then I got it back in the mail, and it was a 9.5. And that was definitely the best case scenario because it added several $1,000s just to this. That single half decimal point just adds a significant amount of value to it.
A 9.5 is a godsend for sellers and collectors, but Zakil wasn't looking to encase his Lotus in a plastic slab and lock it away in a safe deposit box. He wanted to use his for his cube.
After playing for a while, I
Like
made
you.
the firm commitment, I want to make a cube because I know with regards to my career progression, I'm not going to have as much time as I would like to later. And my cube is essentially what I call the Museum of Magic. So it has Black Lotus, it has test prints, it has alpha and beta cards, it has new cards, and it really kind of encapsulates, I think, what the game is and its core function. And Cube is just really a testament to that as a format.
Nonetheless, the piece held much more value than simply its place in the cube.
There's some form of validation as a Magic player to climb Everest, to reach the top, and to have this card in your hand. I remember buying it and just looking at it in my car for like a half an hour, being like, "Holy cow! I can't believe I actually own a Black Lotus." If you look at the video, you can see as I'm like walking in the garage, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, I can't stop smiling.
In October 2017, the YouTuber Open Boosters took a beta pack from 1993 and found the same card that Zakil purchased at Grand Prix Seattle. The most significant difference between the two cards, however, was what DJ alluded to in regards to quality. Zakil's Lotus, considered lightly played, was purchased in 2018 for $6,000. This one...
Holy crap! Whoa!
This one is a BGS 9.5 Beta Black Lotus.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
And this one...
Here comes the first Alpha Rare. Will it be the Lotus?
From the video that made national headlines, breaking through gaming circles and drawing the attention of all sorts of people who simply did not understand the gravity of the event.
Holy bursh!
Or perhaps just chose to lean into their prejudices and dismiss it. This is a 9.5 Alpha Black Lotus, one of only 1,100 ever made in the world.
It's crazy how one piece of cardboard can be like a life-changing amount of
choose to be
fucking money.
cynical and laugh at the gloves and his reaction and the idea of collectibles as a whole. After all, it's just another piece of cardboard. These are just shoes and...
That's what I said!
Are the top 3 home run balls in Major League history right here. 66, 70, 73.
Those are just baseballs, and...
We're here this afternoon to dedicate a new version of the most famous stamp in American history.
Hell, all these are just decorated pieces of paper. At the end of the day, they're nothing more than the value we've agreed to give to them. Unlike food, water, a home, they're entirely unessential. In economics, they'd call the Black Lotus a Veblen good. But to me, I see a common thread across all these hobbies and interests that reveals the very human tendency to collect things. Long before the internets, long before photography, travelers would seek and gather trinkets, paintings, and even animal skeletons to curate them into an exhibit. They were known as cabinets of curiosities, and their function, apart from simply signaling social status, was to instill wonder into the minds of those who passed through the room. More than a museum, cabinets of curiosities were mechanisms of turning seemingly mundane objects into depositories of intrigue. They were locales for the imagination. And it didn't matter if the truth was stretched in the process. What counted was the story an object could provide.
But that's the good thing about these collections of curiosities, isn't it? Each object has to have a story.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we sometimes wonder, or does it even matter whether it's true or not?
I don't think it does it? I mean, it's what's been invested in that object, isn't it? It's what it's been charged with. It's kind of a narrative.
Sneakers, magic cards, even to a lesser extent, paintings, comics, art, high-end luxury clothing, they all have the same core values, right? They're all luxury goods with perceived value, which are worth a lot to some and a lot less to others. We are in Magic, and obviously Black Lotus is this transcendent piece, that represents so much to us, but at the end of the day, it's still a piece of cardboard.
Aaron mentioned in Black and White that he wishes he could
and so there will
use his
always be
true
people
team
willing to spend
is
money
getting
on
used
Black
to
Lotus
his
regardless of what the
regulated
new price is
teams
and
when
how
you
quickly it goes
beat
up.
him. Okay.
The things that stay constant in these collectible markets
Makes sense
is the item
because Gen
desirable,
2 has
and in
them
addition to that, does it
have their
transcend
post-game
what it was originally
teams,
supposed to do?
but as
In July of 2018, the Black Lotus made headlines
Sword
once
and
again.
Shield.
One of the 1,100 copies from Alpha, with a grade of 9.5
others.
from BGS, sold at
Number of
auction for
cheerleaders,
$87,000.
4 member,
A curiosity indeed.
different teams. Okay.
Thank you for watching.
That's very interesting. Very interesting video. Ooh. Do I want to watch that Vice video from like 11 years ago? I've seen this video like dozens of times. Okay. Kids can prepare for them. Huh. Shoot for almost 3 hours. That's fine. We can watch this one, and then I think I'll wrap things up.
Go on, guess.
Magic the Gathering is a collectible card game.
Go on,
It's
guess.
strategic in nature. It's got a little bit of hidden information where you're hiding your cards from your opponent. You're playing your cards onto the battlefield, attacking and blocking with them, and trying to reduce your opponent to 0 life.
People collect the cards like baseball cards, and then they play a strategy game with them that's kind of like a combination of poker and chess. Poker in that you play with the cards you draw, but chess in that each card's like a different piece.
From the cards you collect, you get to customize your own deck and your own experience and make it your own.
When your true foes reveal themselves, will you do everything in your power to conquer them?
It has a fantasy flavor and feel to it. That can be something that's very important to you, all the way down to not that important to you at all.
One of the things that makes Magic accessible to new players is that luck is absolutely going to be a factor. Unlike a game like chess, where you will always lose if you're worse, in Magic you sometimes win. And it's kind of like a little bit of a gateway, you know, like it helps you feel good while you're learning.
Magic is the biggest now that it's ever been, by a lot.
I think we guessed certainly upwards of 10 million people playing the game worldwide.
全てのデッキに勝てるようにするというのが一番でかいですね。
No matter which language you speak, the rules are the same everywhere. Your cards might be in English, his cards might be Japanese, but you both can communicate very easily.
When I was growing up, most people who were playing games weren't really seen as the cool kids. But now, there's professional gamers on TV. This is just so much more a part of the culture than it was 10, 15 years ago.
All right, I'm going to play a 5th mana card, and then I'm going to attack with my Elder Beast.
Can Kenny block his Elder Beast? Not with his Shapeshifter, it's already tapped.
4 damage to your Planeswalker.
Oh!
No!
The game is just so polished and so well done.
it might just be the best game ever made.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. You are welcome
Hey, I say
to our
that.
live exclusive coverage of the final of Pro Tour Born of the Gods. Will it be the ice-cool Sean McLaren or 18-year-old Jacob Wilson?
If he wins this match, Jacob will be the first champion younger than the game of Magic.
Jacob hasn't attacked even once. Jacob really needs to not play this harmonic sliver here.
Sean McLaren, is it Staticaster? Kill your birds of paradise, and that is the end. Sean McLaren is your champion. He is king of the hill. Jacob, congratulations. I can tell, of course, you're disappointed. Who wouldn't be?
Right now, I feel a little physically ill, but I think tomorrow I can look back and be proud about this and hope to win the next one.
Yep, we'll come back, win the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, your finalist, a great ambassador for the game, Jacob Wilson. Good job.
The Magic Pro Tour is pretty much the highest competitive stage for Magic. There's 4 major events a year, the Pro Tours, that each have a $250,000 prize pool with $40,000 to the winner. You can only attend the Pro Tours if you're invited.
You have to win a qualifier tournament just to get invited to a tournament that invites you to the Pro Tour.
Probably a couple thousand.
So many
people
things
show up
just
over
to
the course
get
of the
to the
weekend.
thing.
There's a live broadcast, so the Pro Tours are definitely the marquee events of Magic.
Maybe it should be like chess and have like an ELO.
This is an important tournament for Jacob in a big way. He had a bitter loss in his first Pro Tour. I remember looking at him after that happened. For somebody who doesn't show that much emotion on a regular basis, he was destroyed by that.
Second place is the most painful position to finish. Sometimes people joke about second place being tied for dead last.
I think that might have been the first time we saw Jacob, like, you know, he has this kind of like flat exterior when he's playing Magic, and it was kind of shocking to see him being kind of like almost like crushed to lose in the finals. It's like being dropped off a cliff.
Right when I lost, I was kind of in disbelief. I had won 2 out of the first 3 games, and I felt advantaged, and I really just thought that it was a guarantee. Immediately after, I was pretty devastated and definitely bitter. I'm Jacob Wilson, and I'm a professional Magic player. I was introduced to Magic when I was really young. And when I was 15, I just started playing in local tournaments like once a week. And when I got second place at the Pro Tour, I ended up going from like $100 in my bank account to $30,000. And like I was paying for school all by myself. At the beginning of this fall semester, I was qualified for the World Championships. It was a lot of work to do school and Magic at the same time. So I wanted to take this semester off and just prepare the whole time. Right now, one of my biggest goals is to win a Pro Tour, and if I were to accomplish that, it would be a huge achievement and definitely one of the biggest ones of my life. Tonight could definitely be a late night. I often am a little bit too excited to sleep right before a big tournament like this.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to get a good night's sleep. I think most people try to. A lot of people use like Adderall to focus and stuff like that.
I got sleeping pills.
Yeah.
I like to wake up long before the tournament, so pretty soon I'll be taking a sleeping pill, listen to some music, and go to sleep.
The pro scene is divided from a lot of people's experience playing Magic. It can be so many different things to so many different people. For the average person who's playing, it's much more likely a way that they sort of blow off steam after work, or just get together with friends, or a way that they bond with their family members.
Ma, worry about the food more.
Yeah, the food almost done.
So, Ma, what are we cooking today?
This is a puttanesca sauce. We're gonna have a little penne, and then we'll have some stuffed chicken breast for dessert.
Nice. When people get invited to the Farino house, they know they're gonna get two things: high-level vintage Magic and great pasta. Over there is our collection, cards that we use to play Magic.
Yeah, those cards there comprise a lot of hours of work, a lot of hours of fun, a lot of hours of family and friend recreation. So that's really what it is.
Certain cards, I even remember where you were when you opened them, like the Classe Sardia. We always had a fantasy background, starting from my oldest brother, which read a lot of Tolkien's work. We all read the Chronicles of Narnia. And then eventually I stumbled upon Magic. It was actually in the back of chemistry class.
So I'm a jock Italian nerd. It's part of what makes me me. There's a lot of the old stuff right here. Savannah lions and jade statues. I mean, things like this. Completely.
Well, specifically, why this Savannah lion is kept in plastic is that it actually single-handedly won Ralph's Beta Black Lotus.
That card effectively
won this card.
Won this one.
Beta Black Lotus.
They're very valuable. To about 1993, when we're opening up packs, you're paying $3 per pack. Now, if you turn around to sell it, it could effectively be the down payment on a house. I mean, it's just absurd what has happened to the game.
Another reason, that we definitely love the game and why we play vintage is the older artwork. Like Serra Angel, this is a card I have around simply because I've always loved the artwork.
This is the backbone of my deck. It's called Mishra's Workshop.
To me, I very much gravitated towards the art. I always appreciated the fantasy art aspect.
Why are you laughing?
There were some early pieces of art which had some symbolism, which I think provoked people to bring out the bad aspects of fantasy. There were two cards in particular, Demonic Tutor and Unholy Strength, which had pentagrams on them.
There was such a negative connotation to ritualistic activities or anything to do with sacrifices and burnt offerings, and all of these terms just started to surface.
Magic, the Gathering.
The devil.
So let's see where they're coming from. How many see a pentagram? If you look, there it is.
Perception of parents, well, I don't want my kids playing this.
Geometry means Satan.
Here's one of the cards. It's a dead, rotting, decaying thing that's been in the ground.
Hey!
Remember, it said that it's an occult game. One of the dangers of this thing is
rude.
That it plays with
Dead.
the mind. How many know that the mind is a very fragile thing?
Teenage kids, their parents still had influence on what they could play.
The fragile thing you can't think for
They
yourself.
quickly retracted those printings, and that really quelled a lot of the fires of the whole satanic imagery.
That negative paradigm that followed Magic in its beginning years are now over. And I think you're starting to see now the growth of it is changing. I look at fantasy as one of my little escapes. For those couple hours that I'm playing, it allows me to just, I'll come back to my problems when I'm finished. The Pro Tour player in particular, it's a grind. Those guys will sleep on someone's couch one Wednesday, wake up next Wednesday, they're elsewhere. I mean, it's a grind for those guys. I just wonder how much fun all of them are having. I'm sure there are people that find it rewarding, just not for me, not for our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
We always made it communal. We've always believed in that aspect of it. Maybe that's why we gravitate to vintage so well. We treat everyone fairly. We try not to make people feel uncomfortable. If they're new, we kind of welcome them because no one's bigger than the game, right? The game has to be about community.
That is a spread.
Congratulations for qualifying and have a very, very good weekend. Thank you.
Keep your head straight in front of you. If you're looking to the side, we may misinterpret where you're looking, so please keep your head straight ahead of you.
Don't you dare turn your head, otherwise you're disqualified. Now you have a new struggle with that. You're going for like a Victorian garden theme. Need 2 other Pokemon for this.
I won the first round, which is great. It's always good to get off to a good start. My opponent forgot something that would have benefited him. Like, if you forget what your card does, it's not my responsibility to remind him. I'm normally pretty quiet.
Ekans obviously, but
I don't really like to chit-chat.
should you get Weeping Bell?
He's a relatively quiet guy. I haven't really gotten to know him super well.
Jacob Wilson attacking
I've
for
to
lethal,
remind
using Path to
myself.
Exile. Just saw a handshake.
He's always very even, very calm, and always finds the right play.
Bell.
Oh, he finally slogged through. How do you beat that? So Jacob Wilson moves on.
Might have to. If you're doing like a
It's the end of the
garden
day, and I
thing.
finished 7-1, which is pretty great. It's the best record I've ever had at a Pro Tour. I can't really ask for much more.
Dude, you went 7-1 today. That's fucking insane.
I know, it's great.
Great work.
Thanks.
We're holding white bits of paper, and that means it's time for the end of day wrap.
Oh,
Jacob
God.
Wilson is ahead of the curve.
You've already called it there. You're saying Jacob Wilson for the win.
A terrific job by him and all these players here, on behalf of everyone at Wizards
No.
of the Coast, saying
Don't say who's gonna win. It's the caster's curse.
All right, Mama. Bye.
For context, I remember there was a short time when I was streaming years ago now, where I was playing a game called Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier, and it was a third-person shooter battle royale set in the Final Fantasy VII universe that was on mobile, unfortunately. But I remember me and a friend of mine, myself and a friend of mine, by the name of Stormy, did a series of streams where we would do like an esports type setting. So, I think it was like every Saturday or something along those lines, we'd set up a match, have a bunch of people come in from chat, and basically compete, and whoever won got a prize, like an in-game item, that Stormy would then send over to the winner. And during our time doing that, I discovered this kind of thing when you would cast and commentate, where if you're supporting a certain player, what will end up happening is that that player will end up losing at some point. And if it happened, I think it happened to me a couple of times when I was casting. I noticed that, oh, this person's actually pretty decent. They could win this, and then within like a few minutes later, they're out of the game. So yeah, Caster's Curse. When it comes to saying who's gonna win, don't say anything. Just give a list. Just be broad about it. Don't be specific. Oh, you got new contender. Arados or Spinarak? Ariados. Okay. Spinarak. Spinarak would be fun. And then maybe for like the higher level matches, you could do like, you can do Ariados, like the evolved version. Arbok Roserade and Crobat. Okay. Very beatable, easy bug monsters for the mid-range. Yeah, okay. Alright. How much of this video we got left? I will watch the rest. Fine.
Some of this car is disgusting, man.
Yeah, listen, what isn't disgusting right now?
It just, I wish I could do something about it.
Vintage is a great game, not only because of the old nostalgic cards, the powerful cards, the dramatic plays. The true reason why it's great is the community. The people that make up the game are amazing. Everyone's friendly, everyone's accepting. You know, you walk into a room and you'll have 40 friends. Hey, gents.
Fellas, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Hey, Arnold, how you doing?
I am absolutely not in charge of this ball.
Happening. Glad you can make it.
Okay, what's the word here, gentlemen?
This is Vintage. Right now we're doing an 8-man tournament, just getting together with friends and playing cards.
Why won't you answer me?
My core strategy is generally to stop what he wants to do slowly. Picture a boa constrictor slowly wrapping around somebody, and once he is in a perfect position, now he can squeeze the air out of him. But I have to, the boa has to get in position first. That's the best way I could explain what the deck wants to do. It's planning it out. It's how do you get there. It's stopping your opponent from doing what he wants to while slowly reeling him in.
What is it? Why must you fail me so often?
What I would really say about Vintage is, it really is how the game was intended to be played.
If Vintage is the purest form of the game, it plays with all the cards from originally printed up until the ones which are being hot off the presses.
Wizards of the Coast is especially the creator of this game. They kind of, I guess, believed there were errors in the original cards that were made, and they kind of wanted to put them away in a small place where they could be forgotten about.
They definitely left us out in the cold a little bit, and that's why in the Vintage community we had to self-regulate. And why
God, you have to be some kind of like
had, you know, a little bit of the cold
you had to be some kind of either someone that's had the cards since the game came out, or some fucking rich trust fund kid to play Vintage.
I got into looking at misprints of cards. They probably should have been caught and destroyed by quality control.
Well, I think you can actually play in some game stores that have
this has too much blue. This has too much
with certain rule sets. You could probably go to certain game stores of like proxies. It's like printing at home cards.
Framed at first, but then every time an opportunity came along to get another misprint, I definitely wanted to.
Anything else in there that's worth seeing?
Yes, but I realized I actually can't show something in here, which I'll show
Why
you
is
guys
that?
privately. Yeah,
Why
I
is
just
that?
realized that, and that's why I'm stopping now.
What's wrong with it?
I'll explain after. I actually can't divulge this on camera.
Ooh. Oh, I think I know what he's talking about. Okay, so there's this thing that with Magic cards and people that work at Wizards of the Coast making Magic cards, when a person is like past their 10-year and that, or have been in the company for a long time and get let go, or they quit, or I think it's like if they work for a certain amount of time, they get their own private like card, and those cards can be very rare, but the thing about them is that they're very specific. So you as the person who has worked at, let's say for example, you as the person that works for Wizards of the Coast gets the opportunity to make your own card. So you get to pick its effect, all that. They do like art for you and all that. It's basically, think of it as a custom commission made by the people that make the cards. The thing is, there is a policy in which you're not supposed to resell them. Or sell them in general. So I'm guessing the guy from the video has a bunch of those cards, but can't show them because not only would it be like against certain like rules like in the company, but also would be outing the people that worked for Wizards of the Coast.
That's this one. I'd say the Farinos are the godfathers, and a lot of people do regard them as the creators of these certain decks. Anytime you bring up these
Have Arbok.
old decks, they're like, oh yeah, the Farinos built this, built that.
Our little team for Elite Four is going to be Garbodor, Tentacruel / Rosade, Arbok,
There's a part of
Dracula,
me as being a natural competitor. I
Amphion,
probably wouldn't have
and
minded a small
Clodsire.
opportunity to have done it.
I'm scary.
Right now we're trying to win
Have
more
the
games in
Arbok
this format.
be the carryover.
That's the actual goal, but
Really
to
want
answer the question,
Crobat though.
I would have given it a chance.
Flip a coin.
Excuse me.
Why won't you answer me?
Welcome to day 2 of Pro Tour Fate Reforged, coming to you live.
Now, when you get to the late stages of a tournament like this, there's a lot on the line.
Jacob Wilson has been utterly dominant this weekend, but he just suffered a brutal loss at the hands of Eric Furlan. And if he doesn't make the top 8, that last play is going to come back to haunt him.
I was so greedy. I was so dumb.
Here we are, it's the last round of the day. It all comes down to this. If Jacob Wilson wins, he advances to the final day. If he loses, he is done.
Done.
Our first player, Seth Manfield. Standing in his way, Jacob Wilson. All right, here's Lava Spike to take Jacob Wilson down to 10. Down to 2 is Jacob.
Jacob's turning the tables and going on the offensive here. He's got his guns blazing against Seth, and Seth has fallen to 6.
This is just about as close as they get.
What is my favorite snack?
That's game.
Siege Rhino.
That's gonna do it. Jacob Wilson has won.
He had a single copy of that card in his deck, and it showed up at just the right time. What are the odds?
How do you feel as Seth Manfield right now?
I want to throw up.
I'm very blessed. I almost lost. I drew kitchen finks. I almost lost even with the link.
Pokemon is a nightmare in competitive. It has Sniper. It powers up moves. If they're critical hits, it can learn 3 high critical moves. Critical defense and special defense boosts. Add on the Pokemon barely has weaknesses, it gets slept on.
Jacob
Bloody hell. Okay. Fight day.
If I win the Pro Tour, that would be a defining moment of my life. Magic is the thing I've put the most effort into, and winning the Pro Tour is the biggest accomplishment you can have in Magic.
Hello and welcome to the last quarterfinal of Pro Tour Fate Reforged. We are going to start off with Jelger Vigejma against Jacob Wilson, a 19-year-old returning to the top 8 of a modern Pro Tour, made the finals last year. Let's get right down to the floor and see who is going to win between Jelger Vigejma and Jacob Wilson.
Jelger's hand has everything.
Jacob is in game 3 and a 2 out of 3 against Jelger Vigejma, who is a Dutch Hall of Fame Magic player, so not an easy opponent. Game 1, Jelger had an instant win combo that involved making an infinite number of fairies that all attack at once for infinite damage. And then in game 2, Jacob was able to survive despite the fact that Jelger reigned an anger of the gods that destroyed all of Jacob's creatures. But then Jacob summoned an elephant soldier called Loxodon Smiter that finished the job and killed Jelger in game 2. So now we're on to game 3. Jacob's got a very good start, but Yelger's deck is capable of winning in an eye blink, so the suspense is pretty good.
Voice of Resurgence, he's running through what could he have. Jacob does not have a lot of outs here. Things are not looking good for him. I'm gonna put this Splinter Twin on this Pestermite. Do you have a response? Shows the path to exile to Yelger.
That's a
Now
game.
we'll show him the Dispel, and that should be the game. There's the hand. Yelger Vigashima advances to the semifinals over Jacob Wilson.
What is a skeleton? Haven't told the punchline yet.
Another great performance from young Jacob Wilson, but it wasn't quite enough against the Dutch Hall of Famer. I know this has to be so disappointing for him.
It's okay.
You're graded on how many top 8s you've achieved. I think that ultimately Jacob is going to embrace that fact, and as he starts stacking up more and more top 8s, you're going to see him accept the fact that there is something to be gained from making the top 8, even if it isn't winning the tournament. And for such a young person, he's already off to a great start.
There definitely is a balance of skill and luck in Magic. Anybody can win. The better player is often
As
going to
well
win.
as clear body makes it so stats can't be lowered. Liquid ooze makes every drain done gonna hurt the opponent instead of heal them.
Is a huge part of just games being.
And rain dish, rain heals them. Oh,
the cards are
hey.
continuing to be good. The sets they produce
Interesting.
continue to be excellent. And if that stopped, then Magic would take a step back. But you know, if you're going to keep making great cards and making the game interesting, then the game's going to continue to really excel.
You know, Magic is 20 years old. You know, Magic is old enough that there are people who played the game when they were younger who are sharing it with, you know, their younger generation.
Good game. GG. GG. Okay, you want to play another round? Yeah, let's go.
Gentlemen. Wow, fellas. We've been playing this for 20 years now. It's such really a part of us that I'm expecting to be at Vintage Worlds 20
Give
years
it
from now.
acid armor,
I'm expecting
boost
to be
defense,
Gomez,
its weak,
and when
its
someone looks at me
state,
and he's 18, 20 years old,
and
he says,
biggest
"Oh, that old
weakness,
guy doesn't know what he's doing."
toxic.
He's in for a shock. He's in for a
Can't
surprise.
miss.
I know that I've been playing this for 40 years.
If the user is poison type, unless the opponent is poison or
I'm
steel,
definitely enjoying Magic right now. And I can
Confuse
see
Ray.
playing it for a while. If this year does
Yeah.
go poorly and I don't make platinum, I'd also be happy to go back to school and try to put more of my effort into that.
Invitational in Richmond. I'm here with our champion, Jacob Wilson. Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
The handshake comes a little bit of hardware. You're no stranger to this.
Yeah, I'll put these with my other ones.
hey.
Okay, 7 cards.
Alrighty. I think that'll have to do for tonight or today. I forget what time is. Anyway. I think I have to figure out what to do for Friday's stream. I'll probably continue working on this later tonight, but we'll see what we do on Friday for stream. May play a game, we'll see. Looks like badly poisons. Okay. Ooze. Okay. Confusion and poison stacks. Damn. Ugh. May do a chill stream. Might do Subnautica. I might do a new run of, or continue a run that I'm doing off stream of Abiotic Factor. We will see. That game's fun. I might actually do play. I might play longer than usual if I play Abiotic Factor. Paralyze, burn, and poison overwrite each other, but fusion stacks. That's weird. Cool, but weird. On top of okay. Yeah. It's mean. It sounds mean. Poison types are mean. Love it so much. Oh, bloody hell. We'll head over to here. Sitting up. We'll close this for now. Best part of running poison types is they could do that? Yeah. Pokemon Center gardening. They have a whole section for gardening. Ugh. Oh fuck. They got garden gnomes. Bloody hell. That shit's crazy. Do the little look-see into the news if we can. If there's anything. Doom 2016 turns 10, my god. Okay, an addendum. Gardevoir, Salazzle, Arbok, Clodsite, and Drapion. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Nothing really happening on the news in terms of video games besides mixtape. That's really it. Subnautica 2 is soon. That's right. I think it comes out on the 15th. Which is on Friday. It is, but it might be different date for Australia. Subnautica 2. Comes out 15th of May in a couple of days, so it may be on the 16th of Australia. Because video games and release dates and such. Is it early access purchase phase? It's got pre-purchase. But knowing it when they release it, they'll probably have like a 10% discount. Hmm. Don't I have Below Zero? I do have Below Zero. I'll have to look at things. Okay. Alright. I think we'll wrap things up. Alrighty. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the chats, GU. Much appreciated. Thank everyone else for saying hi, having chats with to the Skelly guy. Yeah. With that all being said, I hope you all have a good morning. Oh. Good job, Fergus. Oh, good. You will return to Popia. As you should. I'll send a raven. Alright. Good. Alright. Yeah. Hope you all have a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, and I will catch yous on Friday. Until then, bye-bye.